Good evening. We have returned to open session at 6:10. Flag salute. All in attendance will be led in a pledge of allegiance to the flag by agreement.
And before I ask you to stand, I just want to say on Monday I'll just round it out, 12,500 students were able to say the pledge in person in the classroom with their teacher, which is very exciting. So please stand and recite the pledge with me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There's no closed session report tonight. And next we're going to move to the superintendent report. Dr. Mitchell.
Perfect, thank you very much. So as Donna mentioned before our flag salute, Monday was our first day of school in the Rowland Unified School District, and we were so excited to welcome our transitional kindergarten through 12th grade students, as well as our adult education students and all of our staff in the 2021-2022 school year. With the start of any school year, we've experienced an increase in our traffic congestion at the start and end of each school day. We had some nervous students and we had many staff. That were here to support all of our learners. Unique to our return this school year, we've had some wait times at the start of the day with the thermal scanner and new routines with hand washing, hand sanitizers, and wearing masks. The district is proud of the many health and safety measures implemented for our staff and students at our schools, including the thermal cameras to screen for temperatures at the entrance areas, plexiglass dividers, signage for traffic flow, updated classroom ventilation, hand sanitizer stations, touchless water bottle filling stations, HEPA filters, and more. We recognize that having school back in session, there are going to be some positive COVID cases. If that occurs in any of our schools, the entire school population is notified. So that is a legal requirement and is one that we as a district support entirely. So if there is a positive COVID case of a student or a staff member, the entire school population is notified through a letter using Parent Square. And then if there is, we do contact tracing, and if there are close contacts to that student and or that staff member, those close contacts are communicated with separately and personally so that they are aware. And we do offer free COVID testing to our students, our staff, our families, and our community. So it is important that I also remind our community to please be vigilant in keeping those to help us keep those around us as well as yourself healthy. Please do not send students to school if they're not feeling well, or if there was someone in the house that has tested positive for COVID-19 and that the student is not fully vaccinated. Again, we are continuing to host free COVID-19 testing. Beginning next week, the testing will take place on Wednesdays and continues again to be free for students, staff, families, and community members. More information will be available on our website, and we will be updating that website information tomorrow. I also wanted to mention, and on a different note, as you recall at our last board meeting, we had the opportunity to welcome many new staff as well as current staff to new position or role. So this evening, it's my pleasure to welcome Michelle Sanchez, who is new to Rowland Unified School District and is serving as the assistant principal at Nogales High School. Michelle, would you like to come to the podium and say a few words?
Yes, thank you. Hello, good evening. As Dr. Mitchell said, my name is Michelle Sanchez, and I come from comprehensive secondary background. I have always been at the comprehensive high school, and it's a place where I enjoy seeing students and working with families. Thank you for allowing me to join Rowland Unified, and the Nobles have welcomed me with open arms. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to make a positive impact on not only our students, but our families and our community. So again, I just wanted to say thank you so much. It's so great to meet you. And I really appreciate this opportunity that has been allowed.
Perfect. Welcome, Michelle. We're very glad to have you on board.
Thank you so much.
I also would be remiss if I didn't formally introduce one of our own into a new title of the position. We have Mr. Alex Flores, who after actions of our last board meeting is now our Deputy Superintendent of Administrative Services. So his nameplate has been changed. His title has formally been changed. And I apologize that I did not recognize him with his new title and role at our district welcome back, but I did want to do so at our board meeting. So as you all know, I don't know if he needs to introduce himself. You're quite familiar with Mr. Flores, but I did want to recognize him. And again, we are elated to be back and with our students in person for the 21-22 school year. We look forward to an incredibly productive and meaningful year as we connect with each and every one of our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. So next we move to student representative report. First speaker is Chelsea Stargo, Nogales High School ASD president.
Don't see Chelsea here this evening, so we'll see if she's able to join us in a little bit.
Okay, then we
On the Rowland High School.
the next, the Rowland High School. We receive a report from Anna Yee, Rowland High School ASD speaker of the house. Please.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Mitchell, and members of the audience. My name is Aimee Yee, and I am the Speaker of the House for Rowland High School. The last week of July was a successful check-in process for all our students. Thank our ambassadors and AHB members helped the freshman and sophomore classes as they navigated the new year. Freshmen and sophomores received small group campus tours to provide extra support as the students are new to Rowland High School. All students picked up basic supplies, took ID, new pictures, purchased spiritware, and received their unofficial schedules on textbooks. It was exciting to see students on campus at the gate. As you all know, the first day of school was on Monday, and all students are excited to start the school year in person. It was a celebration with a drum playing, students walking through green arches, decorating the inside of our building, as well as posters throughout the campus to bring students back, as well as advertising what clubs we have to offer. The students going back in person, Rowland High School doing everything to follow the public protocols, having peer show protection at every classroom table, hand sanitizer, students wearing masks at all times except when eating, no eating indoors, taking temperature when entering the campus and washing students outside for student meetings. Seniors had their annual senior sunrise on the first of school. Students began arriving at 5 a.m. to watch the sunrise at 6 a.m. This event is where the seniors watch the sunrise with friends on the first day of the last year of high school and enjoy eating crispy donuts and drinking juice. In addition, if they had the opportunity to write a letter to their future selves. It was quite a sentimental moment led by Mr. Whitley and Ms. Bates, with great participation by the senior class. Since we're going to school in person, we were hopeful that seniors would get all the senior events and the juniors, sophomores, and freshmen will also get to have their events. Now for the events at Rowland High School. This week is Wow Week, a week of welcome. Students will get to do various activities and learn how to be a thinker, communicator, and contributor. Each day, there will be a lunch activity, and students will do activities during their homeroom class. Monday focused on wellness resources for students participating in RUSD. Students also have the opportunity to learn more about the resources available to our students. Thank you to FRC, the Asian Pacific Clinic, and the Wellbeing Center who came out to provide information to our students. Tuesday's focus was how to be a thinker. Students received party hats from AHB members with representative food caps. During lunch, the activity was factor cap, where students were given a series of statements about Rowland High School and random ideas that had to be like the statement was true or false. During homeroom classes, students had lessons and icebreakers focusing on being a thinker and what is in your name. Wednesday's focus was being a contributor. Students were given handmade headbands from AHB members, and the lunch activity was chain goals, where students broke down their goals for the school year. They represented everyone contributing to me. Lessons within the homeroom focused on icebreaker of getting to know each other with the classmates for attention rating to working lineup, watching the video, and students seeing perception versus reality working about themselves. Today's focus was being a communicator. Students were glow sticks for the whole entire day, and the lunchtime activity was a blanket clothes dry competition. 5 teams of 2 were formed, and the first partner will be blindfolded, and the second partner will tell the partner what to draw. This activity helps emphasize how important it is to be a communicator. In homeroom students, icebreaker was a in homeroom students, icebreaker was a name lineup, video and activity focusing on the importance of figuring out what works for them to be successful as a student at Rowland High School. Students who wore the thinking caps, headbands, and glow sticks were given a small treat and distributed to the AT office. In addition, the participants who played in lunchtime activities also got a treat. Tomorrow's activity will focus on relaxation methods, offering students the opportunity to play games of Jenga and listen to music during lunch. With the stadium, field, and construction, we had to postpone our walk park assembly that was supposed to happen tomorrow to the end of August. As for sports, we will be back in action for playing starting next week. All fall sports have been practicing the last couple of weeks. Athletes are excited to play their sports, and students are very excited to be back in the stands. To highlight a few upcoming events in September, we are currently planning for homecoming. Students are thrilled to have an in-person dance, a homecoming court, and getting to dress up for Hopeful Spirit Week. On top of that, Club Fair Day, where all the clubs in Rowland will have the opportunity to obtain students to join the club, will be the first week of September. Bi-weekly lunchtime kickback games will be held to provide opportunities for our students to just relax their. In hindsight, students at Rowland are continuing to be examples of thinkers, communicators, and contributors. We are hopeful that with students back in person learning, they will have the opportunity to get their best high school experience. Students are very happy to be back, and students are very excited to have their last year in person. Thank you.
Today at the Santana High School, Morena, a request. Santana High School SB member provided the report.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Mix. Santana's ASB would like to extend our best wishes to you and your family during this pandemic. We hope you are all well, that you and your loved ones remain healthy and safe. My name is Helena Enriquez, and I am Santana's ASB. As we enter this new school year, Santana faculty and students alike have been working hard to get back into the swing of things. After over 500 days of being out of the classroom, we are excited to finally be back on campus. Our motto for this year is New Year, New Team, New Start. In honor of our motto, we would like to take a moment to finally introduce the newest members of our school. This year, Santana has a couple of new faces. That would include Ms. Angelique Carnival, who will be teaching the Living in Earth and NGSS, as well as Ms. Brianna Fuentes, who will be teaching English 11 as well as ASB. It's important to note that all of our teachers are working very hard to get to know students and are developing safe environments conducive to learning. This year in Santana, we have added a new independent studies program that currently consists of about 500 students and growing at IAC. All of our counselors have been dedicating time to meeting with students to go over progress and schedules that will best suit each student's needs. Each counselor has also started counseling groups for students to provide a safe space while also focusing on social emotional learning. Teachers and students alike are making sure to consistently go over school policies and procedures while implementing PBIS with the new students. We are also proud to announce at the start of our campus pantry. This year at Santana, the students will have the opportunity to receive dry goods and personal hygiene products for themselves and or their families. To ensure each student's safety, we will be offering convenient curbside pickups in the main parking lot, where families can receive a bag filled with necessary items. In addition to our new pantry, our goal for the second semester will be to start a student athletic center, where students will be able to come in after school to use as much as they choose. ASB as well has been working very hard. What started off as a class of 2 became a team of nearly 20 in a matter of days. We've already decided to introduce some new activities to help students feel more at home and to feel like the community is there for them. One of these activities would be Professional Dress Day, where students would come into school dressed as our board members here are today in a professional setting. During their lunchtime, they will be given the opportunity to come in to our classroom and be given mock interview questions. So they can not only practice, but then they will also be given the opportunity to answer these questions in a mock interview with our ASB students being the interview. Another activity that I think that would bring a lot smiles to our students, something that I think the schools really focus on, is bringing smiles, is who wears the cape. A fundraiser where ASU students, faculty, and teachers will be competing 2 at a time, one-on-one, going head to head, trying to raise the most money. Here's a twist. The one who wins, who earns the most money, gets to hit the other opponent in the face with a cape. Yeah. And we've got enough students and faculty and staff members in order to fill the semester. So this semester we have months. Each month there's somebody competing against another. ASB is working really hard to make sure that the school feels like any other, and that it feels just as much as a home as any other school. Thank you for listening.
Let's go back to Nogales and Richard not online. Okay. So thank you, Anna and Elena. Thank you for your report. And I understand you have schools starting if you need to study work, and you're welcome to stay. You even go if you feel free. Thank you. You may stay. Thank you. Okay, that's the written request. And Dr. Mitchell, any comments?
Yes, sir. Yes, we do have one comment.
Okay. Yes, the public is welcome to provide comment to the board. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes, unless extended or limited by vote of the board. A maximum of 20 minutes, unless extended by the board, is allocated for each subject discussed. The Brown Act open meeting regulation under which the board must operate do not allow board members to comment on non-agenda items or information you may bring up that are not on agenda. Additionally, no action can be taken. However, the board may give direction to staff following the comments.
So our first speaker this evening is Aimee Urbien.
Good evening, President Chen, School Board, Dr. Mitchell, and Kevin. First, I want to say it's good to finally see all of you in person for a school board meeting. I believe tonight is actually the first time as the AR president that I'm delivering my public comments in front of you. After all these, after all this time. I want to welcome our new employees, especially certificated staff who have made that decision to work for Rowland Unified. Hopefully you will see our district, as I have these past close to 19, 20 years, as a second home in town. Through the work that has been done by our members, the district site administration, our CSEA brothers and sisters, this first week has been successful. There have been some bumps in the road as expected, but luckily no huge obstacles. What has helped is the command we have to communicate with each other so we can make it a successful year. We thought last year was tough working through distance learning, but I think this year will either be as hard or even harder. We still need to have patience and flexibility as we continue welcoming our students and staff to back onto our campuses. We are still in a pandemic and the Delta variant is making things challenging. Being back in person is what's best for our students, and we will put our best effort to make sure that we are safe so we can remain at our school sites this school year. Yesterday, Governor Newsom did announce that all school employees will either need to be vaccinated or will have to take a weekly COVID test. ARE and CTA do support this position since we do have to keep our schools safe, especially for our students who can't get a vaccine. We look forward to working with the district on the plan and communicating with our members how vaccine verification will be collected and how weekly testing will be conducted. This school year is going to be tough, but working together and having clear lines of communication will make it as successful as it can be. Thank you and have a good evening.
Thank you. Anymore?
No other comments?
Let's move to discussion item. The first item can have a motion and a second to approve the submission of the 2021-2022 consolidated application report system, consolidated application to the California Department of Education.
I'll move.
I'll second. Malcolm second. Discussion. Any questions? The roll call vote. Don Freeman,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
David Malcolm. Eric Menegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. Next item, 6B, I need a motion and a second to approve the revised job description and increase the salary placement for pool maintenance worker.
I'll move.
Move.
I second.
Mr. Nicholas,
I second.
Agnes, second, discussion. Don? Don Freeman,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
David Malcolm. Aye. Eric Menegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. 6C, I have a motion and a second to approve the new certificated management job description for the coordinator counseling service.
I move.
Move. I'll second. Mr. Malcolm, second. Discussion and questions? Roll call vote. Don Freeman.
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez.
Aye.
David Malcolm. Aye. Eric Menegas.
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. 6B, I have a motion and a second to approve the new certificated job description for coordinator instructional support.
I'll move.
Move.
I'll second.
Mr. Malcolm, second. Comment? No, that's- that's good.
Eric Menegas.
The name is Eric, second. Any questions? Roll call vote, Don Freeman,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
David Malcolm. Aye. Eric Menegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. 6E, I have a motion and a second to approve the increase in certificated substitute teachers' compensation.
I move.
Donna move.
I second.
And that's second. Any questions? Roll call vote, Donna Freeman,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
David Malcolm. Aye. Eric Menegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. Item 6F, can I have a motion and a second to approve the revised board policy as listed on the agenda?
I'll move.
Donna move,
I second.
Agnes second. Any questions or comments?
I have one question. Policy 5141.4, child abuse prevention and reporting. States in the policy, in addition, student identification card for students in grades 7 through 12 shall include the National Domestic Violence Hotline telephone number. Are we doing that, or do we plan to do that?
We are doing.
Oh, we have it already. Okay.
Yeah, students did not have ID cards last year because they weren't on.
Right.
campus, but yes.
I'm sorry.
Any other questions? Roll call vote, Don Freeman,
Aye.
David Malcolm,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
Eric Menegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye, motion carries. The next item, 6G, can I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution AS 21-22 semicolon 05 with the amended certification of signatures.
I'm sorry, I move.
Move.
I'll second.
Second.
That's Mr. Venegas.
No, Mr. Venegas.
Oh, sorry, it sounds good. Yeah, we messed up the pronunciation. This way, Eric, second. Any comments, questions, discussion? Roll call vote, Don Freeman,
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez,
Aye.
David Malcolm,
Aye.
Eric Venegas,
Aye.
Carrie Chen, aye. Motion carries. The next item, 6H. Is under this discussion item. What's reading and a review of revised board policy? Are there any questions? Policy.
I have some suggestions on it, on 5141.52 suicide prevention. A lot of this is structured grammatical. The very first paragraph, it's a very, very long sentence. I'd recommend that we break it up as following. The governing board recognizes that suicide is the leading cause of death among youth, period. Then prevention is collective effort that requires stakeholder engagement, period. Then capital for school personnel who regularly interact, and then that goes on to finish the sentence. So breaking it up into those 3 sentences.
So in terms of that recommendation, that is something that, from staff perspective, it doesn't change the meaning. I can share with you that this policy, the wording on the policy with those 3 sentences, although there's 3 very complete thoughts that are in there that are so grammatically structured that it's been through the CSBA legal counsel and was written this way to match the education code and legal. I don't believe that your recommendation changes the meaning in any way.
It doesn't.
So I don't believe that there's, staff does not have a concern with that. But it is up to the board how they would like their policy structure.
Otherwise, the entire paragraph's 1 sentence.
Fine with me,
Well, the,
as long as it's legally okay.
Yeah.
it's the purview of the board. We can break it into 3 sentences if that's what you would like. Does not change the meaning.
Can I go on now? In the second paragraph, it talks about in developing policy and procedures for suicide prevention. And it goes on and it says that suicide prevention experts, comma, school employed. What is that, school employed?
It's school employed mental health professionals.
Because it just is school employed.
So I believe that when you're looking at an earlier draft, so when perhaps, and I can provide you with a copy, it is school employed mental health professionals, suicide prevention experts, and in the developing policy for grades K through 6, the county mental health plan. That's taken directly from the wording in Education Code 215.
I got
So
this on the agenda online.
So we probably had updated it prior to the agenda going final on Monday at 4:30.
Yeah.
You had shared with us, and so we reviewed it. I reviewed it before it went live.
Okay.
I apologize.
And then it talks about the plan having the measures and strategies for suicide prevention, intervention, and post-eviction shall include but not be limited to. This is just an observation. Post-eviction is kind of like a word that's an in-word with a certain group of people that deal with suicide. Most people in the community would know what post-eviction is. I asked everybody here what post-eviction is. I don't know, give me all the same answer. Basically, if you think of suicide as a pebble, you drop it into a pool of water and you get the ripples effect, that's post-eviction basically, is that suicide reaches out and affects other people besides the person who committed suicide. And there's a whole section that talks about therapy and intervention, and school intervention, because when a student commits suicide, it reaches out to the entire campus. And so I would hope that when we develop a policy, procedure, or plan, call it postvention or whatever, that we would have that focusing on how we intervene at the school campus and how that ripple effect affects the population on the campus. On my copy, the very last sentence, well, actually, number 7, this is crisis intervention procedures for addressing suicide threats or attempt.
It's plural.
Yeah, it is plural then? Okay, it looks like it's crossed out. And the very last paragraph, very last sentence on the page, it says the board shall, and they took out word review and they replaced it with ensure. So the board shall ensure that measures and strategies for students in K through 6 are age appropriate and it continues. I don't know how the board can be held accountable to ensure this. I think the board can review it. And we assign this to the superintendent to ensure that is done. But saying that the board ensures it and we're held, we will be held accountable, I would like to put back review myself.
Ensure is the equivalent of Education Code 215, and that's the language that was suggested through legal counsel. However, if it's the board's interest, we can certainly change it to review. I think it's important to note that this is a policy that is in place. So you are, as this, taking it in its intent, the board would make sure that we have measures and strategies for students in grades K through 6. So when in a different board policy, it's the staff's responsibility to implement the policy created by the board. So it's not written specifically in this policy, but in other policies that we have, including in our board bylaws. The board expects that the superintendent or designee, thus the staff, is fully implementing each of your policies.
Well, on here it says that we ensure that K through 6 are age appropriate and delivered and discussed.
Correct.
I just don't, I would feel more comfortable saying that we review that there's a procedure in place that does take place. But to say that we ensure that it's delivered and discussed, we have no authority over staff to make sure that it's delivered or discussed. We have no authority over staff.
Correct.
So
In
that's-
another board policy, a separate board policy, it's one of your bylaws, that it's delegated that the superintendent or designee takes the responsibility for implementation of your board policies. I think we can certainly look at it. This is the wording in Education 215, which is a requirement of this policy.
I looked at 215 and I couldn't find it. I found review, but I couldn't find ensure. So when you forward that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. And if it's the board would like, it previously has been review. The board would like us to, the reason we bring the updates to you is to provide the most recent copy that's been vetted through CSB and legal counsel. They had suggested we make this change. Previously, Education Code 215 has not changed significantly since 2018, and we have been using the word review. So we are okay if we wanted to continue to use the word review. But again, we were asked to bring the most up-to-date policy revisions as recommended, and so this was one of the changes that was requested that we made to our policy.
Yeah, like I said, I downloaded 215. I couldn't find it in there. If you could find it for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, it doesn't say, nowhere in 215 does it say ensure, but it says that the governing, well, it says that the district of the board, and I don't have it committed to memory, but shall, and it lists these things. So when legal counsel went through and took Education Code 215, took the content of that, put into policy language. Council has interpreted what 215 say so that the board will ensure that this will happen. So that you are correct, Mr. Malkin. 215 does not use the word ensure. You are correct. And I'm happy to make that adjustment. It's that would be the work that we're going to do on behalf of our students is not going to change. Ensure versus review. It is the board's policy, and if the board prefers the word review, that is perfectly acceptable to staff.
For clarification, you said that this directs to another policy and all of this is in another policy, board policy.
So when we go through our board policies, when we look through all of these things, like this evening, we've just adopted a number of policies, for instance, around like drug testing employees and bus drivers and some of these things. The board isn't doing that work, staff is doing that work. And so you have a policy that directs the work of staff. And so there is that is implied in the policy that the 5 elected board members are not the ones that are going to the schools and watching curriculum and implementation. So Mr. Malcolm's point is very valid. And if you were to take this line, as has been done, out of context of the entire hundreds of board policies that we have, I can easily see where his concern exists. And if there's an interest in changing it to review so that it sits best with the board, the work is still going to happen and we will still be in compliance with Education Code 215.
We need to get our legal counsel.
So I've already reviewed it. And so it does not require legal counsel to do so. This is the recommended wording from council, but again, CSBA, yeah, that's who provides us with sample board policies. So if, but again, the work that's going to happen as a district, we're still going to fully implement Education Code 215 as a law that governs the work that we do. This is one of the many policies that the board approves and directs the work of staff. That one word change will not change how it will happen and take place on our campuses. So this is an excellent time as Mr. Malcolm's bringing up these concerns, because this is for first reading and review. So if the board would like us to make those adjustments to those changes prior to bringing it to you for second reading, I will also review it again and can reach out to council if needed if I feel that's necessary. And then we'll bring back for second reading and approval. You'll have an opportunity to read it prior to a vote in our September board meeting.
I think that'd be the best way.
If there's no concerns with the recommended changes that Mr. Malcolm's made, staff was able to make those changes. If there are any board members that object to those recommendations, then we can have further discussion, whatever is the purview, the preference of the board.
I would make the recommendation that between now and the next meeting, you reach out, get clarification, and then bring it back to us prior to the next board meeting.
Certainly, I can send a copy of what would be the recommended policy. Again, I have already done this research and looked at the red 215. So if there's a concern regarding ensure versus review, we can make that change. We can change the first recommendation of the 3 sentences. The first sentence, break it into 3 sentences, because again, it doesn't change the meaning of the policy. It doesn't change the way that we do our work. Education Code 215 uses the word shall. These things shall happen. And so the board shall ensure, because the Education Code says it shall happen. So when the Education Code says something shall happen, then the policy says the board shall ensure that this is happening versus the board shall review it. Ensure is saying it's going to happen. Reviewing it says we're going to review it, but I can tell the board going to happen. And so we're going to comply with Education Code 215, whether this policy reads ensure or review.
Maybe change it and share with the board. So we can.
I can provide prior to the board meeting, when you get all of your materials to read, it will be in there for you to be able to see it. You obviously can't have a discussion unless we're at a board meeting, but I can provide you, but I don't. If the board would like the staff to make these changes, we can make these changes. If the board prefers to leave it the way that it is, we can leave it the way that it is. The recommendations that have been suggested don't change the meaning of the policy in a significant way that would cause a hardship.
David, you want to review what you said, the 3 sentences, instead of a long sentence and the last word? To change that word, if that what you like, and then we could say that sounds good or we don't like it.
Yeah, for the first paragraph.
So there's three ideas that are in that first sentences
Okay.
that are separated by a comma. Mr. Malcolm is suggesting that we take those three ideas that are separated by a comma or the word and make them three separate and discrete sentences.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with changing it to 3 sentences.
Agnes?
I'm sorry.
Breaking this up into 3 sentences.
Sorry, there's one long sentence with a couple of commas, and David feels we should put it into 3 sentences instead.
Does that make the policy different? Meaning?
Julie said everything's still the same.
Yeah, there are three separate thoughts that are in one sentence with commas and the word and. Mr. Malcolm is suggesting we take those 3 separate ideas and make them 3 discrete, complete sentences. Does not change the meaning of the policy or the work that would be done by the district.
Just format change.
You could say you don't agree.
Yeah, just that format.
Otherwise, this is all nonsense.
Donna, you okay?
Yeah, I said that it was fine with me.
Agnes?
I'm okay with the way it is now.
What you said?
She said she's okay with.
Oh, it's okay, okay. Okay, no, Eric?
Yeah, I'm okay with the way it is now, but I'm also okay with changing it from Mr. Malcolm. I think the first change makes sense. It's just a clear thought, three individual sentences. The second one, I think, also depends on the legal definition of shall or must, and I would trust CVSA on that, but if we want to make the change to it, I would be in favor of it.
So.
Right, 2 and 2.
Change, yeah.
They need to know what.
So, I will change, so. Go ahead and make the change. Yeah, so go ahead and make the change.
So it wasn't a formal vote, it's a recommendation by the board, so I'll make those adjustments and the board can have a discussion in September meeting when it's for second review and for adoption. The board may choose to make another change at that time. Thank you for that direction.
But we only talked about the 3 sentences. We want to go on, David, to more.
Well-
Is the last word, right?
The only other suggestion I would have is,
Just so we can give her the direction that we want.
no, I'm just saying, the suggestion would be, the board shall ensure through the superintendent that measures or strategies.
And you want to change what?
Rather than saying the board shall ensure that measures, the board shall ensure through the superintendent that measures and strategies for students. And that would be my concern also.
And we do it.
Does not change the meaning of the policy, so.
The superintendent is our only employee.
It does not change the policy when what you were saying, it's still what it was before, right?
Right.
To my understanding.
The recommendations or suggestions that Mr. Malcolm is making does not change the policy or the way that it will be implemented. It's adding, it's just changing the way that it is structured, and then it's adding the word superintendent, which is already implied in our board bylaws.
I was gonna say that normally would be a procedural aspect.
It's already, this is a policy,
Right,
and then we have administrative regulations that shows how does it happen. So this is the what, and the board's gonna ensure it. The how is done in the administrative regulations, and that's when it, in the administrative regulations, which is approved by cabinet, says the superintendent or designee will do X, Y, and Z. So
I'd just be curious if that second part is actually in there.
So until the policy is approved, we don't write the administrative regulation.
No, I mean, in our board bylaws.
So within the bylaws, it's a completely separate bylaw. It talks about that it's the superintendent and staff's responsibility to implement the policies created by the board, and how we do that is written into administrative regulations. Again, it does not, if that creates a level of comfort for the board, it doesn't change the work of the policy or the work of staff.
You explained that it's in the policies too, so I'm okay with how it is. that last part. I'm okay with how it is and not changing it.
That's a new change.
I'm okay with this since we're not really talking about the regulation or implementing the policy. We're just wording the board policy on that, and it had been what was worded before, so I have no problem with the policy as is.
To clarify, Mrs. Gonzalez, the way it was worded before said review. Now it says ensure. So there is a suggested or recommended change from staff through CSBA to change the word review to ensure. And Mr. Malcolm is asking us to add the words. 1 minute, please.
Wow.
Through the superintendent, to ensure through the superintendent, which as the employee of the board, then the board is saying that the board shall ensure through the work of the superintendent that these strategies are implemented.
Change it.
I'm sorry. At this point, that you had clarified that part, I will go with David on that last paragraph, right?
One more time, please.
That, whatever, I agree with David on the last paragraph.
Eric, what's your advice?
That's fine. I can go with either one, and I really do think, and as I'm reading it, it's more of a legal term, shall ensure. It doesn't say must ensure, and I think those are legal terms, and they're very picky about those words. But if we want to add the superintendent in there, we'll be performing it. That's fine.
As I can also add that when we do any federal program monitoring, as you know, we usually go through FPM or federal program monitoring visits, and they do look for the CSBA legal language in our policies. And you'll recall each time we have an FPM visit, we generally have to bring some policies for updating and revision at that time. And it's generally changing it to the legal language that CSBA has provided. That's the federal agencies and the state agencies working together. But again, the wording that Mr. Malcolm is recommending is changing the work that will be done by the district. But again, it's up to the board. It sounds like I have direction.
Yeah, I will agree with Malcolm. Yes.
I'll make those changes in the second draft. I'll make those changes. They'll be available for the board and the community to view prior to any approval or voting that will take place at our September meeting.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. Right. So where we are. Consent calendar. Okay, next item is consent calendar. We approve all of the items in consent with the section. But there's nothing to put out. So you are opposed to for separate solution. So I need a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move.
Move.
I second.
And a second. Roll call vote. Alan Freeman.
Aye.
Ms. Gonzalez.
Aye.
David Malcolm.
Aye.
Eric Menegas.
Aye.
Carrie Shen, aye. Consent calendar motion carried. Let's move to the next item, is conference section. Item 8A. I'd like to notify the public about an upcoming public hearing on sufficiency of instructional materials. Each year, the Rowland Unified School District Board of Education holds a public hearing before the end of the 8th week from the first day pupils attend school. At this public hearing, the governing board makes a determination as to whether each pupil in each school has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials, or both, that are aligned to the content standards and are consistent with the content and the cycles of the curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education in reading, language, art, mathematics, science, and history, social science. The definition of sufficiency provides that each pupil, including each English language learner, must have a standards aligned textbook or instructional materials or both to use in class and to take home. The public hearing will be held during the regular board meeting on September 9 at 6 p.m. The community may participate either in person at the district office or virtually. Let's move to the next item B, board member comments. Start from Eric Venegas this evening.
Okay.
Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chan. First, I want to apologize to the public for not being in person. As Dr. Mitchell talked about in her opening remarks about being vigilant about COVID, I did have somebody in my household that tested positive for COVID. And so I tested early in the week and tested negative, but I'm starting to have symptoms. And so in an abundance of caution, I wanted to make sure I retested and I'm waiting for those results. But in abundance of caution, I've decided to isolate myself from the rest of from the board. Going on to recognizing the children that I always liked having coming in, and I miss Chelsea from Nogales High School being on site, but I'm sure she'll be there for the next meeting, and we'll look forward to hearing from her. Anna Yee from Rowland and Millennia from Enriquez from Santana did a wonderful job, and I do always like hearing from them. And on a personal note, I can see Villacorta's playground from my kitchen. And it's been very nice to see the life and activity of young kids running around and the excitement that they have. So it's been wonderful that they're back to school. I look forward to being together in person and together. And I think, as Dr. Mitchell would say, we are better together. Thank you, Dr. Chen.
Thank you. Dr. Freeman?
First, I wanted to say Building Services did a great job with this plexiglass and matching the wood. It looks really, really nice. I want to welcome Michelle Sanchez to the Rowland family. And Alex, wonderful. Congratulations once again with your new title. I'm really glad that Dr. Mitchell pointed out your name plate so that I could see your name with your new title. That's really nice. The Welcome Back virtual parent meeting was fantastic. 3,900 people registered, 2,700 attended virtually, and Dr. Mitchell covered everything. Excellent job. Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. The Welcome Back to staff was so wonderful. It was at Rowland High School's Performing Arts Center, and it was wonderful to see so many people in attendance and lots of people watched virtually. Again, Dr. Mitchell did a great presentation. Ken Williams was a guest speaker, and he was excellent. He spoke on many different topics, but I really liked how he explained equality and equity. I am thrilled that we approved an increase in pay for substitute teachers tonight. I brought this topic up because I think this will entice more substitutes to work at our district. We approved several policies tonight which have the word equity in it. This is just what our guest speaker, Ted Williams, was talking about. I was happy to see this in our policy. I could end my board comments there, which most of you thought would be short tonight, but I decided I wanted to share with you what teachers go through. It is so overwhelming, all the things you need to do to prepare for the beginning of a school year. I have the opportunity to help my oldest daughter set up her high school classroom for the new year. I also was able to help a brand new teacher set up her third grade classroom. Both teachers do not work at Rowland Unified. They work at different districts. They both have brilliant ideas that I would have used in my classroom if I was still teaching. Did you know about the painter's tape that is blue? It is amazing, no sticky mess, and it works great. I never used a leveler or string to make sure everything was straight. I used a yardstick. They have clips with a push pin for bulletin boards. What a great invention. Also, you can have a theme for your classroom. I had never heard of that before. I've been out of the classroom for 5 years after teaching for 36 years. I want to mention what a teacher has to do to prepare, and I am sure I forgot a lot of things. The reason I want to explain this is because when anyone walks into any classroom, you automatically think, wow, this is so nice. Look at these great bulletin boards, etc. Most people have no idea how that happened. No one knows the days and tons of hours to prepare your classroom for the first day of school with students. For my oldest daughter, teaching American Sign Language at a high school for her 10th year, some of the things she asked me to do were clean student that she would have had to do if she didn't have help. Clean student desk, whiteboards, counter, etc. Typed up all 7 of her class list on the seating chart. In 2 classes, she had 37 students enrolled. I put their names on a template that she created. Put papers up on the bulletin board, put items away, cut out things, help organize things, picked up bell schedules at UPS. When we left Friday, her classroom was ready for students to arrive on Monday, same day that Rowland started. It looked fantastic. I do not know how she does it with a 3-year-old and 8-month-old twins. For the new teacher, I helped for almost 2 weeks, tons of hours, some days 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. I was totally exhausted. I want to mention some of the things she asked me to do, or she would have had to do them herself. Lock the wheels on each desk. They had desks just like we have in our high schools. I had no idea there were wheels that you could lock. Pretty interesting. Scrub the desk. So I use Clorox wipes, and I didn't realize that they can break your fingernails and everything. Vacuum to pick up staples off the carpet because the vacuum cleaner doesn't pick them up. Use the paper cutter lots of times. Use the letter machine to cut out over 70 letters. Laminated and cut out everything that was laminated. Put numbers in cubbies, folders, workbooks, and booklets. Write months, days, and year. Write the words trash and recycle on trash cans she purchased. Put small letters together on a small board, first day of 3rd grade, 2021, so she could take pictures with all the students the first day of school. Glue things, put tape on back of things, hand her things while she was on the ladder, like border, stapler, leveler, letters, posters, etc. Looked up AR level for books for 4 hours, stamped hundreds of books, and I didn't know that you can go on websites and get free books. Like she found hundreds and hundreds of books that teachers want to give away and other people, so that was great. Organized the books in her personal library, made labels for the books in categories like animals, USA, her favorites, nature, fictitious characters, AR levels, etc. Organized books by month that she will read out loud to her class. Moved desks and chairs in groups twice. Put together stools she bought at IKEA. Created seating chart template. We left one day at 2:10 for lunch when I saw her look inside the classroom as we left and she smiled. Her classroom looked fantastic. I told her your 3rd graders will love their classroom. I mentioned what I did to help these 2 teachers, but they did so much more than I did to get their classroom ready for the first day of school. Most teachers do not get help. While setting up the classrooms, teachers have to attend meetings often. Now, after the room is ready, the teachers have to be prepared by planning for the first week. Do their lesson plan, run off papers, get lessons ready for all subjects, organize, work on your year-long goals, and so much more. Put some presents on the student desk. It seems like it never ends. I also want to mention that teachers spend their own money on rewards and other things for their students in their classroom. Every certificated and classified employee, my hat goes off to you. With all the hard work you had to do to get your classroom ready for the first day of school, you all are very much appreciated. Your hard work is not unnoticed. With that being said, I'm so happy that our first day of school went great on Monday. Welcome back to everyone. I hope everyone, including all students and employees, have a wonderful school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Next, Agnes.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. First week. I know the school is back because it's traffic where I live, so. But I guess that's the negative thing about it, but it's all right. Because I know in my heart that the students are back in person where they belong at the school. So that the teachers can give them that educational experience in person with each other in a classroom, sharing ideas and teaching. And that's what we're here for. And I'm really applaud all the teachers and all the classified staff, even the district employees, because I know it's a lot of hard work and you are faced with a lot of different decisions that are hard to make on a daily basis, but well done. On that account, congratulations, Mr. Alex Flores. our new deputy superintendent. Of course, thank you to the building services. I think you're making me look good in this little shield here. I feel like I'm isolated, but at least I can see, I was able to see the students in person, Aimee. And welcome to the new assistant principal of Nogales High School. It's nice to see them here with us, because this is what we do. We are here for you. And we're glad to see you again, I mean, in person. Also, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Mitchell for that welcoming back to staff. You're like a star there. You're like, you know, I was like in awe just listening to you. I love the sharing that you have about your family, about your daughter, your son. And that makes it more personal to all the employees, because everybody's going through the same thing, and so do you. And so that makes me look at you like, oh, okay, she's the same as everybody else's. So people should know that, and that's a good, for me, it's good opening up to let the employees know who you are, that same token as in your speech. But thank you for that. I really enjoy that. More than the speaker, but don't tell him. Also, thank you for the t-shirts and the big bag. I'm sure everybody will put it to good use and handy. Last week was a good board agenda, the best I've ever had since March, because we welcome the superheroes of Rowland Unified School District, because we have new employees, new leaders, and making decisions last week was like peachy for me, because it's good and it's always positive. Same thing this week. So hopefully, you know, the board agenda will be as easy as 1, 2, 3. But anyway, in any case, kidding aside, welcome everyone. Good job, and hope we continue to be a team player as we progress for this school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Melton, Mr. Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chen. This has been a very exciting week with the opening of our schools. It has also been an exciting week for one of our employees, one who is never in the forefront, always works in the background, enabling our district to be fiscally responsible. I'm talking about Mr. Aubrey Craig, Director of Fiscal Services. Mr. Craig will be assuming a promotion as Associate Superintendent of Business in another district. Aubrey, you will be missed. Just ask Mr. Flores. But I want to congratulate you on your promotion and wish you the best of luck. Thank you for your past service and the many late hours that you have worked in the past to make Rowland Unified fiscally sound. You have been a terrific employee. Secondly, this has also been very exciting beginning of the school year with the establishment of 2 very important functions. The increase of additional services of mental health counselors at all levels, and the universal free breakfast and lunch for all students. Back in 2015, when Ms. Friedman and I first ran for the school board, these were some of the wishes that we had at that time. And 6 years later, they're coming to fruition, which is nice. I am so proud of many of the fellow board members in the cabinet for establishing these 2 items. The need has never been greater for students to have meals and counseling services available to them. The benefits are too numerous to mention. Thirdly, in the consent items, Ms. Friedman talked about access as one of the items that she was happy to see in the policies. And item number 7B2, which talked about Nogales High School contracting with a outside company, CARPE, College Asset Access Network, that works with the students, Many of them never had anybody in their family go to college to complete the college application process. For those of you that have gone through that in the past, you know it's very hard, it's very difficult. And especially if you haven't had people in your family that have done this in the past, to have this extra help now in the community that will assist them to further their education after high school is a great asset to have. I'm really proud of our school district for offering that to those students. Finally, August 9th was the first day of school. We did it. Was it perfect? No. Was it successful? Yes. Did we learn from our experiences? Another yes. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for your leadership. The cabinet and RUSD staff, both certificated and classified, that made it all happen. A big thank you to our students and their parents, who we all work for and serve, for their cooperation. And let's have another big successful school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot to add. The In-N-Out burger was delicious. I love it. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much on behalf of the board and the classified and the certificated staff. I stood in line there with Maddie. It was like, I was sweating, but I think it's worth it. So we stood in line and we really enjoyed everybody's company, saying hello to everybody. Not just the food, but just saying hello. And of course, we can't shake hands. We just did the elbow thing, but just welcoming. It's so nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Mr. Venegas, your turn. Oh, sorry. My turn. Right. Right. I want to welcome everyone. This week is a big week after 18 days, 514 days out of the school, and we finally back to the campus. Remember, 514 days ago, we were in the boardroom and made the decision to close the school. At that time, we thought we were going to close it for a month, 2 months, and we said close. Okay, we thought we closed to the end of the semester, and after the summer break, and we open. But no, the after summer, the pandemic getting worse. So then we realized we are facing a very challenging crisis, and very strong enemy, and end up being close more than a year and a half. What I want to remind everybody is the pandemic is not over. We're celebrating return to school. We have a kind of we are very joyful, and we are very happy with that. But remember that the pandemic is not over yet. We need to put 100% precaution measure for preventing it happen again. I don't want to see the decision get worse. Close the first day of school, first couple of days of school, I drove by and observed some campuses, and I also get them communities shared with me something I observed we need to concern is the school still in one season online there, so this is not the parents with dropping kids and they have line very long and really long time, and I think we need to correct it. And some parents they tell me the lunch time, and we make sure the kids keep the social distancing and especially lunchtime eating. I don't want to because the COVID-19 is very contagious, so and very strong. So if we forget about the we treat it as a normal time, and we don't we don't take the sufficient measure, then that's very dangerous. We may have that another wave of without again. So we need to protect our kids. We need to everybody, our staff, our teachers have to enforce the measure everywhere in the school. So we win a victory over the pandemic. Because again, I like to remind my parents that the back to school still be very cautious. And of course, I can see Dr. Mitchell and her staff, everybody in the school, but in our district, so putting a lot of effort, making a lot of preparations, very good. So as Dr. Mitchell mentioned, we have all the equipment, ventilators, water cooling bottles is already or installed, or it's not easy or plexiglass devices, and that already very, and we appreciate that. And the parents more appreciate it. But still, strongly remind everybody we need to be very careful and it's not over. And congratulations, Alex, for your new position, and welcome, Michelle. And I mention it because I want to the public know we are aware about the concern we have, and we care about kids going forward. Thank you. Yes.
Stephen, I'm so glad you mentioned Aubrey. He was such an asset to the district and he will be missed, and I wish him good luck too. And lastly, Aimee, thank you so much for coming and staying through the whole meeting. It's so nice to see somebody. And Victor, you always do a terrific job with technology. Thank you.
Hey, I need what's it? Need a motion and a second to join the regular board meeting of the Unified School District Board of Education.
I'll move. I second.
And this is second, roll call. Don Freeman.
Aye.
Agnes Gonzalez.
Aye.
David Malcolm.
Aye.
Eric Menegas.
Aye.
Jerry Chen, aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned at 7:22. Thank you very much. Good night.